Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow guest,
Mr. Solis.
Yes, and so it's been a while. Last one was Money in the Bank, first pay-per-view back with fans, and then, we get here to this week, packed week. There was Summerslam. And for like the first time in a while, a full-on stadium. They rented out Allegiant Stadium, home of the Raiders in Las Vegas. And Sadly, TakeOver had, still its little CWC crowd.
Right.
But, had those big events. But before we get into it, first, Mr. Solis, how are you? How have you been these past few weeks?
Doing great. School started in person, we've been back for about 2 weeks, and things are running mostly smoothly. It couldn't be, more grateful for that. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's testing randomly each week. We had some really big news. Last week we tested 110 students and adults. All negative results, which is really great given, we've been in each other's company a little closer for the first time in a long time. So we were real worried about what that was going to mean. But so far, so good.
That's great to hear. That's kind of been my biggest worry ever since I heard that, schools were going back is just, man, I hope things are handled well and, you don't get too many cases because especially on that level, it's like if one person gets it, you don't know who's been in contact with that one person.
And, talking with the teachers, think about where we were in 2019. The kids are wiping their tables after each use in class. They're wiping their devices. They're washing their hands and hitting the hand sanitizer whenever they want. It's there and available for them, right? I feel like, and think about it, 2019, Jack, no one was wiping their devices. No one was wiping their tables. Who knows if they were washing their hands? We're infinitely more clean now by comparison. So all of these measures that we're taking, I think, are ultimately going to, help us keep our little ship afloat.
Yeah, that was the one thing that really surprised me. Was looking back, I was like, man, how did we live so in a sense unclean before all of this? I know for a fact Mr. G, he always had hand sanitizer, and my entire friend group would always, right before we leave the class or right as we entered, we would get some. It's I can only imagine how much hand sanitizer is being used now after all this.
So much so that people have learned how to make their own, you know what I mean? They've come up with recipes and stuff like that. But the school is heavily stocked in all of those PPEs.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm still waiting. I obviously go in late September, and we're still waiting. But me and my dad were kind of looking at it the other day because it's been a week since my doctor's appointment, and so that's 1 week into the 4 weeks before we visit him again. And he said he wanted me to start getting used to walking on it, but we're already 1 week in, and me and my dad kind of noticed it when I put both my legs straight. My foot that I had surgery on was still kind of curved towards the right, meaning even though it was straight, it wasn't fully flat. So I'm guessing as the next few weeks go on, it will slowly revert back to how it's supposed to. But seeing as how by the time that happens, we're gonna be midway through September, me and my dad are more than likely gonna ask my doctor for a referral to possibly continue just doing online rather than in person because. Even with that short amount of time, it's not only just walking short, it's going to be walking one building to another.
On that hilly campus.
Yeah, so...
USC gets a lot of flack for being so much smaller, but it's also flatter. UCLA is a hike.
Yeah, so...
But how are you feeling otherwise?
I'm doing pretty good. I might as well bring it up on the podcast. I recently got some new merchandise from the previous episode of the podcast. You all will know from our NXT episodes, I was a big fan of Bronson Reed. As we discussed, he sadly got released, but he came out with new merch. I bought some, posted it on my Instagram, and he even shouted me out in his story.
And what's his new name?
Jonah. I think he's going back to his old name of Jonah Rocks. His Instagram is Jonah is here.
Yeah, Jonah is here, but you say his name is Jonah Rocks?
Yeah.
I just gotta say, Bronson Reed is a savage among men, because when he got his release, he posted, "Good job, WWE, the monster is unleashed," and then he tagged TNA, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Wrestling in the same post as he added WWE also.
He did. And hashtag like what after that. Hashtag what have you done?
Yeah, you can't get much savage after that. I was like, what a man's right there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I remember when it happened because I saw like the post that he did, you know, and I was like, man, I can't believe they released. And then I scrolled down to the comments, and the first comment completely just took away my sad mood because they were like, give me Bronson Reed versus Shingo in New Japan. And
Jack, I went to New Japan Resurgence at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I also saw the show as well.
The match of the night for me, I wonder what it was for you. I'm excited to hear that you saw it. Oh, I'd much rather talk Resurgence than SummerSlam. But it was, for me, Moose versus Ishii.
That was mine as well.
Ishii's so short, I had no idea. But it's so funny how the man is literally like half the size of Moose, but no one discredited him. No one discounted him. They thought it could go either way.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, wait a second, I don't remember him being this short. I was like, and I looked up their heights, and even then I was like, I don't remember Ishii being this short, but man, did he put up a fight.
Wild, right? So yes, let's see Bronson Reed versus Ishii. Versus Shingo, versus Moose. The forbidden door has been kicked off its hinges.
He put out a tweet. I remember he put out a tweet saying he wanted to face Miro, and he did it by like spelling it out through the first letter of each sentence. Yes.
Oh, and then he versus Miro.
And then he put one out for Ishii, and then at the end he couldn't think of a final I, and he just goes, hell, just give me the bald bastard.
That's a good one. Did you see the Offspray promo?
Oh, I did.
That was incredible.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am fully excited for all the things that are going down in wrestling. And speaking of which, we have to talk about it. There's no way you go past this.
You know what, Jack? It's not even talking about it now. It's about the fact that people have been talking about this moment for the last 7 years.
Yeah. It has been heavily teased for a while. Year in, year out, there's always one tease about this man coming back, and it never happens.
You think you've heard it. It's happening at a Royal Rumble for 7 years. There have been 7 WrestleManias it could have happened at. There have been 7 years of Raws and SmackDowns and pay-per-views where it might have maybe happened. And then AEW branched out, and then it just became a whole nother place that it could happen.
Yeah, especially when All Out is announced, and it's always in Chicago, and everyone's like, it has to happen there, or it's going to happen there. But for the first time in 7 years, heavily hinted, we're told the second episode of AEW Rampage, The First Dance, United Center in Chicago. Big things are coming, big surprises. Everyone immediately assumes it's CM Punk. It's got to be CM Punk. They're rumoring it. There are the people who fully believed it. There's the people who were like, I'll believe it when I see it. Yep. There's the people that are like, I don't believe it. It's been said for 7 years, but they probably still tuned in.
And, it got to this fever pitch where, honestly, if they didn't deliver on this, who knows what would have happened to that building, to those people? People would have... I mean, can you imagine these are people who have been hurt by the WWE, right? Like, they have all the right in the world to be skeptical, but to put so much of yourself into this hope, and then to have it, be Daniel Bryan at the worst time.
Yeah, me and my pops literally said that we were talking about it, and like the days leading up to it, this entire week leading up to it, we were like, it would be the biggest shot into this young company's foot to promote all this, and it ends up not being him, because they would.
It's gonna be then, like, this company has had its shortcomings, right? It's going to be worse than that explosion at the end of Revolution, right? It's going to be worse than the crash pad at the end of
Blood and Guts.
Blood and Guts. I'm glad you're able to pull up these event names so quickly, right? Like, this is going to be those times 1,000.
Yeah, and it was also funny seeing social media's like reactions leading up to it, because there was like the day of like right as Rampage was starting, someone said if CM Punk doesn't show up tonight, Tony Khan better have like a personal helicopter to get out of there at the end's night, because there's no way he's leaving alive if he doesn't deliver. And
like, 2021 at the beginning of the year, the world was shut down in all of its theories and conspiracy theories when Disney Plus denied them a Mephisto in WandaVision. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, nerds, we've been beaten up so much. We're like, we just want this to happen. Why won't you let this happen? And when they start teasing, Jack, when they start saying things like, I want you to sit there as uncomfortably as you can while I'm talking, and you're like, we've heard that. We've heard it.
Yeah, and it was everything. There was the Kenny Omega wearing the different shirts that had the initial CM in it.
Cookie Monster. Yeah.
Darby Allin calling out the best in the world.
Yep.
And it was funny because when leading up to it, everyone was like, "Oh, how much of a swerve would it be if Punk's music hits? If it was either This Fire Burns or Cult of Personality?" Because I think they could easily have gotten either. And they were like, "Oh, what if one of them hits and it's MJF that walks out and gets like nuclear heat for it?" I saw it. I was like, that would be a pretty cool idea. But I think even they know this is a once in a lifetime pop, and you don't want to waste it on a fake out. And as we were shown, they wasted no time on Friday.
That crowd was so organically and unbelievably loud for one man, for CM Punk.
Yeah, and honestly, I was glad I was able to catch it live, and I bet it was even better for the people live there in Chicago.
The building.
Like I everything I've heard about it. So what happens is the show starts. They do the show intro, and and this was the best part. They didn't even start with commentary. Commentary doesn't even introduce it saying, "Oh, we're live here on AEW Rampage in Chicago." No, it's fully quiet. They're letting the entire stadium chant as loud as they can, CM Punk, and they're like zooming in on everyone. It's all quiet, 15K people, and they knew it themselves. They weren't going to wait because they knew if anything came before, it was going to be hijacked by all those chants. It wasn't going to be cared for and stuff. They knew they had to get it out. And so you just see they slowly start panning, and then you hear Cult of Personality hit. The roof blows off that place, and what I've heard from like seeing online people who said they were there in person, they were so loud you couldn't even hear his music.
I believe that. I think that's the case even in the video. I thought it was playing so low, but it must have been the enormous crowd reaction.
When we were watching it live, it was loud, and then as soon as the music hits and he walks out and gets that even bigger pop, you could tell that they had to lower the sound because of how loud they were being.
And you know what, too? Like, the song and the graphics got an enormous pop. We hadn't even seen the guy yet, right?
Yeah.
They're just reacting to colors and letters, And I wondered if he ever came back, and there was a strong possibility it was going to happen Friday. I wondered if he was going to come back and reinvent himself, a la Jericho, you know what I mean? A la a wrestling artist a bit, right? I wonder if he was going to come out and try to sell anyone on like a bald head or I'm an MMA fighter guy now, so I got the gloves and the shorts. But no, Jack, that man knows how to print money. He came out with the slick back hair and the white t-shirt with the black trim that we all remember from 2011.
Yeah.
He's like, nope. Let's give you the hits.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's what it was. He walks out, and you mentioned the shirt. He plays a bit with the crowd speed, and he showed up in a black hoodie and black pants, making it seem like there wasn't much to it. But then as soon as he gets in the ring, he goes, "Hold on one second." Then he unzips it, and you see that classic shirt.
A new take on a classic design, and again, like The song was shouted, was reacted to. The shirt was reacted to. He sat on the ground, Jack, and these people ate it all up.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times they popped for this one man. When he went and hugged someone in the crowd, they went loud. When he dove into the crowd, it was like everything he was doing, they just went crazy for.
And I heard Jim Cornette. He's an ornery man. He thinks nothing's the same and everything's worse because he's old. But I heard him say that it is a testament to how over that guy is that he sold out a basketball stadium on a rumor. They didn't tell us he was coming. Just the idea that he might, that all these pieces had to mean he was going to be there. They sold that building out.
Yeah, and you did it well because I also saw that he also had said, he was like, whoa, that wasn't the way I would have done it because the way they did it was absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that, the way they did, because like I'm saying, they knew they couldn't do anything beforehand. They couldn't put anybody out there to have a match before them, before the Punk appearance. They couldn't save it for the very end.
Nope.
They knew they had to send them out there at the very beginning because not only would they keep the amount of people tuning in, but also they knew it was going to take a while to quiet that crowd down. So it was more than likely that they were going to have to throw him out there, let him cut his promo for however long it takes, and then whenever he finishes, all right, throw the rest of the show on there, and just do it according to what happened with him.
And for anybody who isn't really sure how and why, the two folks talking here via Zoom to you all about this guy, CM Punk. If you don't understand how big a deal this is, just take your favorite band, pretend they broke up, and that they spent the next 7 years telling the interviewers they're never getting back together. Like they started their own projects, they even ventured into anything other than music for almost a decade. And then imagine that moment when they come back together. It just hit all the right buttons.
Yeah, and it was just so it was such a great experience,
and it doesn't even end with everything we've described. Because how does it end, Jack?
So he announces, and this is the perfect part. As soon as I saw him looking up, I knew what he was looking up at. And he points to the rafters. There's Darby Allin with Sting, and he goes, "All out, it's me and you." And then he also was naming other talents, I know he name drops Britt Baker and helps put her over with the crowd and stuff. And
he told the Chicago crowd that their chants and their love made him feel like Britt Baker in Philadelphia, right?
Pittsburgh,
you're right. It's Pittsburgh. So like a nice cheeky reference to somebody who's on the rise in their own career.
Yeah, and he also tells them, I'm back, and in the media scrum after this event, he doesn't want to go into detail about it, but they just let you know, hey, he's not part-time, he's more than likely full-time, he's showing up a lot, and he's like essentially making up for these past 7 years.
And did you hear him say, hey, if Nick Khan tells me to go fight in the G1, I'm going to go fight in the G1, and you're like, don't say things that you're not prepared to pay up on. Because now that we got what we want, and that's you back, we're just going to want more. Don't you dare play with my heart.
Yeah, I heard him mention the G1, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, New Japan, they're kind of missing a few pieces this year around. They need some really big names for that G1. I was like, don't play with us like that. It could happen, but I know it most likely won't.
Goodness great. The G1, can you imagine just a month of dream matches? Anybody against CM Punk. Taichi, Suzuki, Ospreay. He's not going to be in the G1. Kali G.
Oh my god.
Sonata. But wait, Jack, there's more, because how does that epic promo and appearance by CM Punk in Chicago really end? After he challenges Darby Allin, what happens?
I believe, if I remember it correctly, right before he walks out, he says, oh, and on your way out, don't forget to pick up some ice cream bars.
That's incredible, right? It's so incredible.
So, context for this, because I know a lot of people won't know, but
nobody knows.
So back in 2011, when CM Punk was really on the rise in WWE, you know, he cuts like this big promo on the company, you know, and he was like, basically what a lot of what he was saying was that, you know, he's not on the, like, a lot of like the merchandise, the graphics and stuff for the company. You know, they don't promote him. He doesn't get like the big deals and stuff. Right. One of the main things he wanted was, WWE used to have ice cream bars back. He wanted them to come back, and he wanted himself on one, you know, and he was basically saying, you know, he's not on all this stuff. They don't do much to, you know, put over a young guy like him, you know. And so 7 years later, what is that now, 10 years later from 2011, he finally gets his wish and gets his ice cream bars.
And we all, you know, the whole stadium got ice cream. No one took a picture of what the ice cream looked like, but I saw a few folks selling those things online.
Yeah, if you want to know how over this man is with the crowd, they were selling the wrappers of the ice cream bars online.
Because the wrapper had his shirt design on it. It's collectible. It's unique. They only made 15,000 of them, but, like, that's it.
And the biggest thing, speaking of, you know, selling out crowds, having this stuff sold, as soon as he's announced, and it was like as soon as he finished up, you go on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, all you see is CM Punk is All Elite official, and right below it, CM Punk shirt design on Shop AEW and Pro Wrestling Tees. And what happens? That man completely crashes their site for almost an entire day, because so many people were rushing to buy that shirt at one time as soon as it was announced.
You know who were the last designs to get such a reaction?
I believe I saw Pro Wrestling Tees posted that it was the Bullet Club Bone Soldier design.
I heard that it was Sting when he made his AEW debut. And then it was the Brody Lee memorial shirt.
Yeah. I think the Bone Soldier one, I think was, they said, like, their most highest sold one within, like, 72 hours. But
yeah, maybe.
I think the other three, you know, CM Punk, Brody Lee, Sting, were all, like, much quicker.
CM Punk versus Taiji Ishimori. Let him be in the best of Super Juniors, too. Let him be in both. He's a skinny midget, right? Something like that.
And there's a part of wrestling fans that, you know, they wish it didn't happen solely because it ruined the rest of the week. Because after that, how could you expect anything at SummerSlam TakeOver to live up to that? There was only...
And you have to wonder if WWE were even, like, trying to outdo what happened Friday night. You know, were they going business as usual? Did they just say stay the course? Or were they going to make deliberate moves to try to win the weekend, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, it's half and half with that, you know, as we'll get into it. But I'll tell you this, there was only one thing. I wasn't expecting this one thing to match the hype of the of CM Punk's return, but I was expecting it to at least, you know, be close to or on par with it. And that was, you know, as I've spoken very heavily on this podcast about, the Walter Dragunov rematch. I was like, I know for sure if there's one thing that at least is going to deliver this week and, you know, be on my talking level of that CM Punk return as well, it's going to be that match. And even then, CM Punk is still very much ahead, because I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched those videos of him returning, because it's just so addicting just hearing that crowd go crazy.
Our analysis of the Walter Dragunov rematch is on the next episode. But I will tell you, Jack, after we talk about SummerSlam, what one thing WWE could do to come anywhere close to CM Punk's return on Friday.
All right.
Because maybe it'll happen in SummerSlam. It won't. But I was thinking about it. I was like, what could it possibly be? And I have an answer. I guess.
All right. And funny enough, sir, we're 25 minutes into this episode. Obviously, we have 45, but I just find it funny. Essentially, we spent almost the same amount of time as Punk did in that ring for his promo, and coming out to the ring, basically talking about it.
I'm prepared to talk to you, Jack, about 4.5 hours of SummerSlam nonsense in the next 20.
And you're probably wondering, how do you fit 4 hours of content into the remaining 20 minutes? Easy, because if we're being completely honest, other than a couple matches, in my opinion, SummerSlam didn't really deliver as per usual.
So much so, Jack, I didn't watch it. I watched recaps and, video clips, but Saturday night I was busy, and I wasn't, prepared at all to accommodate SummerSlam to my Saturday schedule because I felt so lethargic about the event.
Yeah, when the final two matches happened, me and my dad were really irked because it was they went all the way till 9. We were expecting to be done by 8.
Me too. I thought, because I was free at 8, and I thought, the event will be over. I'll start over, watch it until midnight, right? And it was still going on. Peacock wanted me to watch it live, and I'm like, oh hey, where's the start from the beginning button, huh, Peacock?
Yeah.
No, it was still at it.
Yeah, when we were watching the match, I was it hit 8. I think they had finished up Edge and Rollins. I was like, we still have Lashley, Goldberg, and Cena Reigns. I was like, and Lashley Goldberg shouldn't last longer, so are they finishing up by 8:30? But then that went long, and then they do Cena Reigns, and I'm like, we're really going to 9 with this? I wanted to be done.
Gracious. Alrighty, Jack. We're going to talk about this quick, and then after each match or segment, we're going to talk, you and I, does it come anywhere close to CM Punk's return?
So the show opens with AJ Styles and Omos defending their Raw tag titles against RK Bro, Riddle, and Orton. All I have to say was it was a nice and quick opener because that's all it was. It was a quick tag match, and since they've been teasing it a lot, it was kind of expected that RK Bro walks out with the tag team titles.
I thought I heard dissension amongst the ranks. He hit him with an RKO, didn't he?
Yeah, but it was confusing. Their explanation for it was that that was Orton's way of showing he had respect for Riddle, and I was like, I don't know how that makes sense, but sure.
I saw somewhere on Instagram Orton sort of describing that Riddle actually came out to help him, or help him in the ring even after the RKO, which maybe made him turn a corner. So, new Raw Tag Team Champions. Jack, does this match and the results, RK Bro being champions, does it come anywhere close to CM Punk's return?
I would say no. I mean, the crowd really enjoyed it, but my main thing was, wow, was that quick? And you could say that about a lot of matches, as we'll get into. But nowhere close.
We got a championship change, and we don't care.
Speaking of don't care, the next match was Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie.
This has gotten a lot of TV time. Eva Marie's really giving the business to Alexa Bliss and Lily. And I like Alexa Bliss's, I like the way she reacts around Eva Marie. You know what I mean? She breaks away from this spooky nonsense. The Bray Wyatt aimless promo Alexa Bliss, and then she was like, she's a person who doesn't like another person.
Yeah, but so if I remember correctly, Bliss wins that quickly, and then after the match, you get Piper Niven, refuse to call her by the other name. You get her announcing Eva as the loser, and so that's already dissension between those two, even though they barely formed a month ago.
Right.
But nowhere close to Punk.
Oh, nope. We had a big match with some pretty big characters, but nope, it did not.
Next, we move on to Sheamus defending his U.S. title against Mr. Solis's favorite superstar of all time, Damian Priest.
Is he anybody's favorite superstar, you think? You think anybody is jazzed? Oh, wow, Damian Priest put me on his Instagram. Oh, my gosh. He beat Sheamus.
he beat Sheamus. Did you enjoy him doing his arrow thing on the big screen?
I missed that. I missed it. I didn't see that. I shudder to think what that looked like, live.
It's funny because when they came back to this match, they show like they panned over to him, but the fans in the attendance, they showed that like he stood out there for like a good 2 minutes, just standing there with his head down, waiting for them to like actually come and cue his entrance.
Goodness gracious, how awful! You know what I mean? Like just sort of, those folks that follow orders to a T. That can't improvise. Like our man on Friday. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm worried for the poor guy. But listen, like, do you remember John Cena's first U.S. title win? WrestleMania 20, Madison Square Garden. This is his moment. This is a career-defining moment. Mm-hmm. Did it beat CM Punk, Jack?
Nope. Goodness
gracious. Great balls of fire.
It was still a good match, I'll say that. And the one thing that I noticed was it went fast. It went longer than the other two. I was so surprised. At that point, I was so surprised. I was like, man, I thought we were going to get done in an hour with the way these matches are flying by. But it was a good match. But, yeah, definitely not a candle to Punk.
Goodness. You have 2 title changes, Jack. Like, that's an eventful evening. But don't come close to a guy walking into a ring.
Then... how can we combine it? Let's do a rematch between the Mysterios versus the Usos for the tag title again.
4 formidable men doing the battles, right? You've got family versus family, brothers versus a father and son pair. There's a lot to go off of here.
Usos retain in a decent match. Apparently had a lot of crowd support. A lot of people liked it. Surprising. But... doesn't hold a candle to Punk.
We got to be like an hour into the show by now, and there have been lots of opportunities for WWE to razzle or dazzle us. They have the talent, they have the production. Goodness.
Yeah, and that's something I'll get into later. Then we get Nakamura celebrating his Intercontinental title. And I was confused by it because I was like, if we were going to have such a big celebration, why not just have the match on the card where he would have won it? Instead of like a random episode of SmackDown. But, okay, cool, short little break. Move on to Belair versus Banks.
Right.
Except apparently Banks is a no-show, even though I saw by multiple people on social media that she was in Vegas.
Huh.
That, like, I don't know how like true it was, but like I was seeing people posting that like Sasha Banks was apparently in Vegas. I don't know what the deal with that is. Won't speculate until there's confirmed things, But so
yeah, since she was on TV so recently and she just sort of disappeared without explanation. WWE really good with those lack of explanations. You and I, I'm sure, came to the same guess, right?
Yeah. So we were like, okay, Banks isn't there. Don't know why you were promoting it up until then. So then...
Well, they've done that before.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely thinking like there's some good reason 19. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But so then...
But what do they do, Jack?
They announce Carmella comes out. And I have to mention, the entire time, Bianca Belair just looks totally annoyed by it. And I can't tell if that's just her in character... or if what we know is coming up now, if that was her personal feelings of annoyance. But so Carmella comes out, and we're thinking, oh, okay, we're getting Carmella versus Belair again. But then Becky Lynch music hits.
Whoa! Whoa!
And we're like, Becky Lynch, wow, big return, And then she takes out Carmella. She takes
This is it, Jack. This is the thing that's going to make us talk about WWE and forget about old man Punk. It's the man. Becky Lynch, main event at WrestleMania. The first woman to do so, if you don't count the other 2 who were also in the match.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh, Becky's here. And then you see she agrees to a match with Bianca. Like, Bianca agrees to face her here at SummerSlam. And you're like, it's SummerSlam.
Wait, what? But... Right now? Like, We're going to do this? Formidable opponent. I mean, wrestlers. Doing the graps. We got nothing but time. We're supposed to replace the Sasha Banks match anyway. Let's go.
Yeah, on such a big stage. No wonder all the other matches were short. They probably wanted a lot of time for this.
This must be it. What they were saving all that time for.
Except all you see is a punch and a bootleg rock bottom, and I don't know where the match is over.
Oh, man. Bootleg rock bottom. I like that name better than the one I read. The manhandle slam. Becky Lynch beat Bianca Belair in 20 seconds.
We only have 9 minutes to get through the rest of this, so I'll keep my opinion short. I'm not going to be blind and biased. I would say this is the exact same thing as Charlotte and Lesnar coming back and winning the title, except I realized something. As much as we bag on Charlotte, at least Charlotte comes back and has a full-on match with the champion.
Whoa, shots fired.
Like, this was completely terrible. And people are trying to say, oh, wait for their plans, wait to see what's going to happen. No, you put an entire year into building up Bianca Belair, and she's going to lose like this with the excuse that I wasn't ready?
Jack, one night before, we saw a man return and say his piece. Everyone was excited, and then he said, Darby Allin, I'll see you in a month. He bigged up Darby Allin. He bigged up everyone he mentioned, and then left. Becky Lynch rolls in and pins the champion in less than a minute, and I'm supposed to be okay.
Yeah, no words on that.
No words. No more words.
And it was like a vacuum just came in and sucked all the energy out that place. And you're thinking about this, you're like, man, how are they even going to try and recover from this total, like, vacuum right here?
Well, have you heard what the plan is?
What is the plan?
They're going to make Becky heel.
Yeah, I don't know.
In their dreams.
I know, huh? But
like, in order for her to be heel, I think what she's got to do is, like, give her belt to Charlotte and then just stand behind Charlotte and clap whenever she says anything.
Yeah.
Help Charlotte win matches.
So you're looking at all this and you're like, man, how are they going to recover? Why, throwing on a short match between Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal.
Great.
Nothing much to say there. Definitely doesn't hold a candle to Punk. I'm glad, Drew's getting feuds out of the title, to give him a break. But, man, it was like...
That was a weird feud.
I know, and how short it is, it's like you can't even really have any praise for it.
It was Jinder, like, really. He wasn't a threat until he had two giant guys flanking him on either side. And what did they do before SummerSlam? They let Drew win a match that created the stipulation where those two giant, wild cards outside couldn't be there.
Yeah. And then it was at this point 4 matches left. And this happened. It wasn't because of the show, but I made a joke with it with my dad, and I had to write it down. The show was taking such a toll on me, I had to take a Tylenol.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It's all right, Jack. The next match it's gonna bring you back. We're gonna beat that Punk guy. We're gonna show him who's the draw. It's the Raw Women's Championship match. Nikki, almost the superhero, the champion, defends against Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley.
I mean, here's what I'll say. Seeing the previous 2 women's matches, they didn't really have to do much to top them. But I will give them credit in that they tried their best to get that crowd back into things after that complete dud. But,
what gets a crowd into things? Charlotte winning. Charlotte beating the inspirational superhero, colorful character for kids, and the, metalcore new face on the block. We should be building her up. Why aren't we building her up, Rhea Ripley?
Yeah. I at that point, I was just like, I don't even know what to think. It's like if I'm being generous, sure, the tag matches and the U.S. title match were good, but up until this point, it's like it felt like SummerSlam wasn't even worth watching, and we're almost like 2 hours into it.
Jack, I'm not gonna lie, really excited. I skipped this one. I'm sure at this point people aren't even watching the show anymore. They're just on Pro Wrestling Tees trying to get their CM Punk shirt.
That was me. But I will make a special request here to pivot. I want to skip the next match and talk about the last two before we get to this match.
Alrighty. It seemed like it was the best part of the night.
It was.
So, we can skip this match, go to the WWE Championship match. Bobby Lashley, the champion, defending against Goldberg in 2021.
Yeah. And, I mean, it was interesting. It went longer than I expected, but I don't really have too strong of an opinion on it. I just thought it was funny when Goldberg's son came out at the end after the match, and then Lashley puts him in the Hurt Lock, and then when he lets go, MVP's trying to defend him, saying he couldn't have known who that was. It could have been any of you out there in the crowd. That wasn't his fault.
I think, it's funny. So I wish he hadn't touched his son. The second he touched his son, it means we're getting a rematch because he needs revenge. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wish MVP would have been like, don't touch him. We're done. We're leaving. Go. But he's played himself. Goodness gracious. Lashley retains due to referee stoppage. Goldberg got a bum ankle an ankle, right?
I think it was his knee, but it was funny. My dad caught this. MVP was supposed to hit him with the cane. He hit the rope instead of his leg, and Goldberg actually started to walk away, but then he kind of I guess heard the sound of the rope and realized, oh wait, that was supposed to be the cane hitting me, and that's when he starts to buckle over afterwards.
Oh, funny.
But so I guess the match I want to talk about, we'll have to carry into the next episode, but 2 minutes remaining, we get the main event, John Cena versus Roman Reigns. You hear that and you're like, man, that does sound like a main event. That does sound like something super hype. The problem is the match already happened back in 2017-18. So, and not only that, they barely put any build to it. I mean, the video package was amazing. They kind of did what they could to hype it up, but it was for the most part, Cena wasn't on TV at all. They kept him for dark matches and stuff and segments after the shows. They barely had him on there except for 2 segments or so. But it's funny because a lot of the praises I have are nothing to do with the match, because I have the fact that I really like the graphic of it was showing Cena and the championships, the world championships he won, going across the screen banners and then the dates.
Oh, cool.
And then he also had the shirt where I liked the back a lot, where it had all the championships saying which ones he had won to become 16-time. And then I will admit this, even though the match seemed predictable, they had me when he hit that avalanche AA on Reigns, because I was like, that's got to be the finish. That's got to be the finish, but it didn't end up happening. Reigns retains, even though I wish I could have seen Cena win, 17 times. Especially because I was like, man, what a way to get at Ric Flair for requesting his release. He requests his release and you immediately have someone break his record.
But wasn't to be.
Yeah. And I'll add this in, to add a little bit of real life into it. I saw someone speculate the fact that maybe Roman mentioned on the Go Home episode of SmackDown that he would leave WWE as a way because of how, as we've heard, things are somewhat on the rise. We don't know yet, obviously, with this whole variant thing in real life.
Oh, yeah.
People were speculating with this on the rise, maybe Reigns drops it here because he wants to, again, at the beginning of this, when this all happened, he
was gone. He wasn't even around.
Yeah, he went to go home to take care of himself and his family. So people were
That's right.
Maybe that happens again here. So I will admit, that was one thing that threw in a kind of a speculation of uncertainty with the match of whether it was predictable that he was going to retain or if, he was going to drop it because of real life circumstances.
How much time we got?
We got 20 seconds, so...
Well, we got to go and tune into the next episode to see if that's how the show ended and if the show actual ending beat CM Punk.
Yes, so we'll see you all in the next episode.